Welcome to the New Monks. This podcast is dedicated to those of us on the journey of evolution. Through these episodes, we will dive into the lives of individual people and discover what they have learnt and how they have handled their growth. We believe that we all have wisdom to be shared with each other and can learn from listening to each other's stories. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and Apple Podcasts, Spotify. If you feel like leaving us a review and sharing the love, that would be greatly appreciated. So this is just a heads up because, there's a lot of information that is coming to light at the moment, and through these episodes, each person is going to share a different side of that for them. Now, this isn't to say that every single thing that is shared here is going to be 100% accurate. It's just not where we are right now. It's just not the case of the unraveling and the disclosures that are being revealed to us. Obviously, things are always changing, and in one moment something can be so real and so true, and the next moment is completely shifted and changed into something else. This is the journey of evolution. This is the journey of ascension that we are going through right now. So this is just an invitation that your discernment is really, really important. As always, as usual, please take what resonates and leave the rest. Thank you. Hi, and welcome back to the New Monks podcast, where I am speaking to individuals going through transformation, healing, awakening, spiritual growth. And in today's episode, I'm speaking to Casca. I'm Jane Muller, and we have a history that goes a little while back, and actually we used to work together in London, although we didn't have too many conversations at the time. And I just noticed on her Facebook that she's been sharing a lot about the Akashic Records and dragons. So I really wanted to speak and just hear about her journey. I do remember at the time that she definitely had a bit of a, hippie vibe about her. And I was always intrigued. And this episode is amazing. We speak about how, she was always deeply connected to the elementals from a very young age. And even from a young age, she received information that came through certain people in pivotal moments in her life that really allowed her to see what is happening in the world with the battle of darkness and light, and opening her up to entities and, all the negative aspects to this realm. And, as a child, at a very young age, that was a lot for her to handle. But later on in her journey, it became clearer and it became lighter, and she continued to work on herself, going out in her 20s, partying, diving into the world of psychedelics and plant medicines, and then, finding a conclusion within that. 2020 came, the dragon energetic really, really came to her very, very clearly in 2018. And then in 2020, it was very clear that how she was going to be working with the dragons and bringing this new form of healing, Dragon Reiki. So this is such a wonderful, magical, mystical episode where Casca just really shares her life story and how deeply she has always been connected to the etheric realms, basically. And she has a new book coming out all about her connection with the dragons. And, I've heard about the dragons, and she so clearly states that, there are negative dragons, but there are also higher positive dragons at the same time. And a very important distinction, because some people think, oh, the dragon's negative, and then they rule it out altogether. But she explains it very well, and the book is all about that process and that journey. And yeah, excited to see how her life path is going to unfold as well. So this is great episode. I hope you enjoy it. And apologies for my microphone. There's a very loud buzz in the background, and I've tried to remove it, but then that has resulted in the audio not being so audible. So I will add subtitles, but luckily I'm not speaking so much. But yeah, I hope you can hear it. And it's only in the first hour, and then after that, it's fine. Yes, hello. Welcoming Casca to the New Monks podcast. So, interesting story, but we used to work together a very long time ago. I think we said it was like 2008, 2009. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's been a little while. And yeah, I think I just noticed all of your sharing on Facebook and over the years,
Yeah.
though. And I was just like, oh, this is very interesting. Like, she's obviously very
Mm.
aware of what's happening. And I just wanted to hear more about your journey, story as well. And even back then, I remember, like, we were just discussing now that you were always very connected. So I'm really happy
Yeah.
to also catch up. Like, it was really
Mm.
cool.
Yeah, firstly, Jessica, I just want to say thank you so much for inviting me to come on your show today. It's such an honor and such a beautiful pleasure to sit here with you today after all of these years. Gosh, we've both been on a big journey, and obviously, this is not our home, is it? We're both South Africans, and we're like little gypsies, spiritual gypsies, just being guided by our souls, and really that has always been how I've been. I've been, very guided by my soul, which hasn't always been accepted by very many people. But I, as far back as I can remember, we lived in on the outskirts of Cape Town, in a little town called Somerset West. And I wasn't born there. I was born in Johannesburg, and my dad back then was a celebrity in South Africa. And he was a musician, and he did a lot of kind of songs about what was going on in the world, a lot of songs about the apartheid. Some of his songs were actually banned on the radio, and so when I was born, he was really stepping into his fame. And his name was actually Crocodile Harris, and we were then invited to move to Cape Town because his manager was there and his recording studios were there. So we ended up moving there. And my dad's music career just took off. He was invited to the Cannes Music Festival, and the whole of South Africa was just in awe of him, because during that time, South Africa actually weren't allowed to participate in a lot of things because of what was going on. So the fact that this man was actually invited to go and sing with like Rod Stewart and Bananarama and all of that was a really big deal, and the whole country was kind of watching him. And he sang a song called Give Me the Good News, which is really valid now when you think about what's going on in the world. And if you get a chance, I encourage you to listen to it, and your soul might even recognize it because they still play it on the radio
Mm.
in South Africa, and they played off a lot of. He was number one in France for 16 weeks. So,
Oh.
in the French community, he's loved and accepted there. So, but I remember that those times in Somerset West very, very clearly, even though I was very little. And my dad's music studio was right next to my bedroom, and I remembered hearing him writing his music, and at that time I was very connected to the stars and to fairies and just into things that we couldn't see. And my dad used to encourage that for me. His family were very spiritual in the Christian sense. They were Methodist, and his dad was a minister from Glasgow. So, that kind of energy was running through, but obviously I didn't know what it was at the time. So I was kind of going down the religious route and going to Sunday school and whatever. I had a very big moment when I was 5 years old. I had to go and get my tonsils out, and when I was in the hospital in Somerset West, I went into anaesthetic, and I'd remembered in Sunday school, God was the white sock puppet, and the devil was a dark grey sock. And whilst I was under anaesthetic, the white sock and the grey sock were actually fighting over my soul. And for a 5-year-old, that's quite a big deal, because I still remember the dream or wherever I was, but it wasn't really the sock. It was all the God or the devil. It was literally light and dark. And when I came out of anesthesia, I was hysterical, and they took a long time to calm me down. And I tried to explain this situation, and it wasn't really received particularly well. And following that, I had a moment, shortly after that, I had a moment in my bedroom where I was supposed to be in bed, and I was on my hands and knees on the floor, and I was like, right, if Jesus, if you're there and you really are there, please come down and hold my hand. Well, I felt a massive hand go into my hand and grab my hand. And I just jumped up and ran to my mum. And she was like, okay, well, just don't tell anyone. But what was actually taking place there, Jess, was I was really tuning into spirit at a very, very, very young age. I was also at that time being woken up by elementals, tiny little, elementals coming and waking me up and sending me gifts, flowers, gifts, spiders, crystals, all of that when I was really, really small. And I thought everybody was going through these things.
Yeah.
But they really weren't. They really weren't. And I was very blessed, because I remember my dad waking me up in this same house where all these magical things were taking place. I remember my dad waking me up in the middle of the night and going, come quickly. And we went into the garden to go and watch Halley's Comet. And I just feel like what a blessing, because my dad was so connected to the stars. And what a blessing that was, because that's a once in a lifetime opportunity, maybe twice in a lifetime. But there was always that energy. This then kind of progressed as I got older. My parents separated. We left Cape Town and moved back to Johannesburg. And I was saying to my mum the other day, I used to, growing up in South Africa was very, very, very different to the lifestyle in England. As you know, we had a lot more freedom. Life was very different. And I used to do readings for my teachers.
Wow.
I used to connect to spirit and do readings for my teachers as a little girl. Like I think about like a child doing that now. I mean, there's going to be some kind of health and safety or safeguarding or whatever it is. But there was a freedom when we were growing up. So as I said, like this spiritual connection was very, very strong. And then when I was about 8 or 9 years old, something very, very, very profound happened. And look, I'll be honest with you. People can take this in whatever way they want, but I know for a fact that what I'm going to share with you now was a big sign from my team, from my ancestors, from my galactic soul family, of what I would be facing in this life and what would be taking place in this world. And I was very, very, very young. Okay. I went to an amazing primary school, and the teachers there taught my father, my sister's 11 years older than me. So there was a massive community there. There was a lot of love. And I remember being in our school hall one afternoon just playing, and on the side of the piano there was a carving of 666. And I was like, I remember looking at it, and I can still see it clearly today. And I was like, what is that? And one of the older girls took me aside and she said, that is the number of the devil. And I was like, what? But it didn't ever go away. And that night, my whole bedroom was full of entities. And I was little and I'd never ever seen anything. The closest I'd got to that feeling was when I'd been under anesthesia. So my bedroom was full of entities, and I saw a lot for a little girl at that age. And I knew that I wasn't seeing these, that no one else could see them. Um, and shortly after that, I was kind of told a lot more things about what was actually going on around me in my life in South Africa, and that there were groups that were very dark and there were groups that were very light. And for a child, you don't know any other way. But now, when you look back and we know what's taking place in our world, I was really, really shown, and it was like. And I know now, Jess, that it was like, look, this is an incarnation. You were a little girl, but actually your soul was very old and you really have a job to do. And that's it. Okay. Um, and I was then about 11 years old, and another older girl who was very good, like friends with family friends of ours. She ended up being at a sleepover. And I never used to do sleepovers, but she ended up saying to me, I don't know why. She was very religious. And she said to me, I don't know why, but I feel really compelled to share some information with you, which I feel like you really need to know. And so I was about 11. So we're talking 91. And she told me absolutely everything that we've just gone through in the last 4 years. She knew it. She knew it. And she told me all about it. She told me everything that was going to happen. And that really woke me up. I was about 11. I know. And do you know the really mad thing? Like we it was powerful, and we are, if I wanted to reach out to her now I could, but there wasn't any need to. But we sat there until 2 o'clock in the morning, and she sat like for hours telling me about the world, about what was going to happen, about the dark and the light, about an invisible wall. She told it all to me. And so
Wow.
I took that on. But then what was really interesting is it wasn't until probably just before we met, Jess, which must have been about 2007,
Yeah.
2006, 2007, where I then connected with a beautiful woman whose father was very connected to the elites. And she came in again. She said, can I come and stay with you? I was staying in halls of residence, and she was like, can I come and stay with you? She was adamant that she wanted to come and stay with me. And that night she opened up a whole new thing, just about the world. So I had these key moments in my life where I knew what was coming. And everybody thought I was completely bonkers. Look, some people still do, and that's really okay. I've learned to live with that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's lifetimes of persecution. It's lifetimes. But when you say, I've always been connected, I have always been connected, and I've always been led by my soul. Hence why I live here, because I left South Africa because I was guided to come here to do a connection to Stonehenge. I literally
Wow.
had to come here and connect my soul to Stonehenge. And I was only 18, Jessica. Do you know what I mean? I was a little girl. But you were also young when you came as well, weren't you?
Yeah, I was 10.
Yeah. So yeah. So, a baba. So guided here. And now, the key places where I've lived, and I've lived in so many places, but the key places where I've lived all have a common theme. They're all very connected to, like the Viking energy. And there's always been big shifts within those places where there's been kind of like, battles or things going on. And that's kind of where I've ended up living. And now, I mean, I'm 44 now, and I'm completely guided by my soul. Whatever my higher self communicates with me, I surrender. I've got to the point where I don't question that much. But it's been a massive journey. And I think the hardest thing for me is when 2020 came. I was really elevated in my work and in my practice because, I'm not sure how much you know about my work, but I work very much in the Akashic Records, which are our soul's library. I've been doing energy work for a very, very, very long time, 20, 25 years. Prior to that, as a child, I was already working with energy. But, when I work with clients and I teach workshops, we are healing on a very, very deep level. And there's a lot of shadow work involved. I work with the dragon energy as well. So when 2020 came, the dragons had just come in, and I was like, whoa. This is a whole new kind of energy. The dragons had just come in. I'd been doing a lot of work in my own Akashic Records, and everything in my practice was completely shifted. And then we went into lockdown. And I was like, oh my God, is this it? Is this it? Is this it? And what I didn't realize that it was just the start of the awakening. Do you know what I'm saying? It was like you already have known all about this. And really, do you know what, Jess? Like I over my life, I haven't been able to share all of this with a lot of people. There've been very few people. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And now it's really okay. And I think as well, well, when I mentioned before the lifetimes of persecution, I really do mean that because I work with loads and loads of women and men who are here to do this job. Their souls are here for this, and they've been here a long time in this, and they have had lifetime after lifetime of persecution for light work. Okay. So by the time we've got to this point, there's a lot of damage that needs to be repaired in order for us to fully step forward into our power. And that persecution and imposter syndrome and all of it just starts going, go, 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 go. And, you know, we are working through that because as an army, we're here to do this work.
Yeah.
And everyone always goes, I always felt there was something off. I
Yeah.
always felt there was something off, you know?
There is. Yeah.
And that goes to show how powerful we really are, but also how the plan has worked so beautifully to disconnect us. You know, that's the thing.
Wow, I feel like you said so much. I feel like a little girl. I'm like,
Yeah, no, I've been so looking forward to sitting here with you because I look back at that time when we were working together, and little did we know we'd be sitting here, and both of us standing so strong in our truth.
yes, yes,
So strong. And we were guided to connect at that time
time, yes,
for a reason.
yes,
There's no two ways about it, to bring us together now to be like, look, here we are doing this work,
yes,
supporting humanity as we shift, but also self-healing. As you said earlier, it just never really stops, does it? It just
yes,
goes on and on and on.
yes.
But we can't do this work unless we do the healing work ourselves. There is no other way.
Yeah,
You have to do the work.
I always say that there's no other way.
Yeah, this is it. This is it. And so here we are now, and we have, we've worked through the first layer of this experience, and we are on a big old journey. And whether we're going to shift fully in this incarnation, or whether we're going to go, okay, let's go back and do it again. Okay, we won't give up until we've done it. We won't.
Yes, love it.
As many times as we go, I'm definitely not coming back, we will, because we have agreed to stay here till the end,
Yeah,
until we've done that shift, and that's it.
I love it. There's so much I want to like dive into, but normally I start by just taking a few breaths, but This is such an amazing introduction. I was like, keep going, keep going. But if we can do that now, that would be great, and then we can just continue.
Let's definitely breathe.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much, man. I love what you shared, the story, and like you said, you was connected, and the beings, that the fairies. I feel like when we met, there was definitely that energy. I sense of it, and I love it how we connected then, and now we're on such similar alignment in purpose. I think, and but back then, it's so interesting. I love how people just weave in and out of your life because I don't think we really spoke much in this way. But I love what you shared about South Africa. I feel like as you were speaking, I was taken back to my childhood, and I feel like there was so much magic when I was growing up
Mm,
there. As well, I felt it, even my friendship group, everything. Those conversations were just like abundant. You just speak about these things, like, and there was such like excitement around it. It's very different, I would say, in the UK. I feel like there's less of that. Um,
absolutely.
but yeah, I
It's
would.
beautiful.
Yeah, right. And I don't know what it
Mm,
is. Like that country, there's something like it's more open in that way.
mm,
But I guess it
yeah.
depends. But
It's a weird thing, South Africa is the solar plexus of our planet. And when you think about what is going on there and what's the journey South Africa has been on, it's massive. And
yeah,
but there's a lot of crystals and minerals and the
oh,
animals and the shamanic work there, with sangomas and all the ancient medicine practices. And so I think to be born in a place like that, Jess, we were actually
yeah.
very, very lucky.
I know.
Very, very lucky.
I'm getting goosebumps every time you're talking.
Mm, yeah, yeah. And I look at my children here, and my God, we give our children such a beautiful life here. We've got a boat, and we go down to the river, which is not far from here, and
Amazing.
we have our weekends are on the water all the time, and we take them camping, and we do everything we can to keep our children connected to nature, but it's not the
Different,
same.
different,
It's
right?
it wasn't. It was different, like I was constantly barefoot as a
Yeah,
child,
same me
and
too. Even
you know,
on the concrete, just always.
always
Yeah.
barefoot, and our parents were so relaxed with us as well, and
Yes.
it's different. It's that's it. We were very, very, very lucky. The life in South Africa. I know this beautiful woman. She's one of my mom's oldest friends, and she's an amazing writer. And I'll have to share it with her. She writes these beautiful blogs about the old life growing in South Africa, and she says that it didn't matter how much money you had, you still had an affluent life.
Oh my word, I love that.
And it's so true. It's so true. It wasn't when we were young, it just wasn't. You could, your dad or your mom, you didn't even have to have a lot of money for you to live this abundant life because
Yeah,
even the weather was
yeah.
abundant, the food,
Food.
you know.
Because people always say that when they, especially when you go to African continents, people are so happy. Countries,
Mm,
everyone, like the children are singing. There's so much joy.
yeah, yeah.
And it's so interesting. I feel like for me, when we moved to England, I always had such deep connection with South Africa. I don't know, like every time I heard the word, I was just like,
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
powerful. Like there's definitely something.
like
Yeah,
being
there
born.
really is. There really is. And you know the really mad thing, like I met some South Africans a few weeks ago. They've opened a little South African shop not too far from here.
Where is it?
And is the connection all right?
Yeah, yeah. Where's the
Yeah.
shop?
It's just in Romford, not too
Okay.
far. And they were actually from Durban, and I spent my teenage life in Durban. So, you know, there's a lovely connection there. And I said to her, I said, you know, I actually don't really have any South African friends because I've just moved into my own. You know, I'm very British now. You know, all my family still live in South Africa, but I'm very British. I've lived here for 20. This will be 26 years. So it's, you know, it's a long time. 27 years. 27 years. Oh my God. You know, but I think that the South African soul
Yeah.
is still there. And you know, we choose where we incarnate. It's all about choice. You know, we choose where we're
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
start this journey.
Of
And
course. There's
yeah,
this other South African woman. I don't know if you come across. I will send you her some of her videos. So powerful. Judith Cassell,
no, I don't know her.
and she's
Yeah.
even got a book, and it's called "Why I Was Born in South Africa." But
Oh,
check it out. Like, but I think it's about the Lyran, maybe.
oh yeah, 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 yeah. The Lyran, beautiful, beautiful.
But yeah, there's totally something. It's such an amazing place, and yeah, there was another video I was watching recently about blue light hotspots, and she's going around where it's clearing different parts of the world. And the last one I think she did was in South Africa, and there's just so much magic that from that video, and I think so many people feel it, like cradle of
Mm,
mankind is what isn't that like a term people use?
absolutely. Everyone that goes there is like, oh my God, it's the best country I've ever been
I
to.
know.
And you know, people that are really well traveled, and it's always the same thing. That's the best country I've ever been to. And oh my God, the food.
So true, so true.
Yeah, and the food, do you know what? Like the food is something I still crave and
I
miss
know.
because I love that. I love the kind of like the combination of the Mediterranean slash Malay slash it's such a Dutch, it's the food, even the Portuguese, it brings in the Portuguese food as well. So you've just, you know, it's such a combination of all these beautiful foods. And
Mm,
I think as well, you know, when you cook with love and passion, all that energy goes into the food as well. You
definitely.
know, it's
But I think also the produce is just like higher quality, just
yeah.
naturally. It's like especially in the UK. I don't know what's going on over there. Like,
I don't know if you know, that's the thing. I think because of the weather,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
obviously,
That's true. That's
it's just we have to just import so much stuff here. You know, when you think about food that's been sitting in freezers and all sorts for a long time, obviously it's going to lose all of its
that's true.
magic.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I love this what you shared about your childhood. Yeah, just that whole magic thing. I feel like I remember so much speaking about this. Um, you just totally took me back there, and I would love to hear more about what you said when you're 9 years old, and then when you were 11 years old, about what it sounded like the information was just like channel like coming through from both of those people.
Yeah, you know, like those were definitely divinely guided. You know, those when I look back now and I know what I know about the soul and our journeys, I know that those conversations before we came into this existence and this incarnation, those were poignant moments where the soul must have said, right, at this point I'm going to come in and I'm going to start helping you remember and reawaken to where you're at and what your mission is. Okay. And I really feel that now. You know, I'm aware of that now, because those moments really shifted me. And do you know, in my 20s, you know, I mean, I absolutely went through a massive time where we really partied and, you know, kind of got lost in the psychedelic world and all of that. It was amazing, absolutely beautiful. Loved it, you know, the music, the party, and all of that. But during that period of time for me, my 20s, there was a lot of growth. And my cat's just come in. And during that time, there was a lot of growth and healing for me because I would say it was probably my 20s was the darkest time for me, but it was also I've made the most memories and I had the biggest shifts during that period of time. So it was a very big part of time, a big part of this incarnation of this journey for me, because the 20s revealed the shadows in such a big way, and they were really, really, really deep and really, really, really dark. And so I needed that experience, and that's actually when we connected. It was during that period of time, and when you and I had met, I was actually coming out of quite a dark period. I was coming out of it, and I was kind of moving away from the party scene and making some big decisions to separate myself from, you know, my friends and all of that, so that I could really focus on finishing my degree. And because I did my degree later in life, so yeah. So when we met, we were working at BBB because the tips were blooming amazing, weren't they? So I was able to make some really good money working there. It was a great place to work. So, you know, the 20s, in that space, I was shown so much. In that dark space, I was shown so much. It was, and what I mean by that is I started to really see the unbalanced divine feminine and divine masculine. All of that stuff started to really come up, and I'd been given loads of attunements during that time as well. So I was like blown open. I was like kind of blown open, and I was starting to really see, and spirit started coming to me like during my dream state. Like deceased were coming and speaking to me to help me. It was really coming through a lot for me in that time, Jess. It was really, and I knew that I was going to be doing quite some deep shadow work and healing, and stuff was going to be revealed. And not a time, I think, especially the later 20s where we were, not a time I would like to probably ever experience again, but very glad that I was able to navigate through that, because it was dark. It was really dark, but I had to go through that in order to really see what has been taking place between the divine feminine and divine masculine, and how important that connection is to be balanced for us to kind of shift. And I was just like, wow. And obviously the karma involved as well. So the karmic connections coming in, um, they played such a big role in that period of time.
Yeah, man, same.
You as well.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, like real trauma, real trauma, but through that trauma, real growth. You know, and then, you know, like that energy kind of stuck around for quite a while. I'm not going to lie. It stuck around for quite a while because it was almost like you need to heal. You need to heal. You need to heal that divine feminine, and it needs to be healed. You've got to keep working on it. And I didn't actually realize it. I kept being like, why?
This is the thing. It's the same cycle over and over and over.
Exactly.
It's gonna end
Exactly. And I didn't understand that it was actually
for you.
because it wasn't just me experiencing it. It's collective. This is it.
Yeah, totally.
And then when I met my partner, I was 31, and he was in Portsmouth, and he was kind of like, I'm going over to France and doing some work out there, blah blah blah. And we met, and it really was like a, you knew that it was more than just a meeting. You could feel that it was two souls that were familiar with each other. You knew it, but it wasn't like that whole kind of what they call the twin flame. Oh, it wasn't that. It wasn't that, because although it was magnetic, there was a different dynamic at play here, but we knew we had to be together, okay? And the first like 10 years of our kind of relationship, it still was like that. It's still, and those patterns were still playing out. Do you know? And really traumatic. Yeah, really traumatic. And for me, you know, I was still I was really devoted to my practice at the stage, and I was working as a healer and a teacher, and it was still coming up, and it was raw as hell. And I was just like, this is ridiculous. But you know what? Like, all the women that are really close to me were going through the same sort of thing. So powerful. And then when we separated, which was in 2020, I did some ceremony. I was like, right, I'm going into ceremony. I want to see what's going on here. And whilst I was in ceremony, I basically, pardon?
What kind of ceremony?
Plant medicine. I did some plant medicine. All my ancestors came forward and stood around me, and my spirit guides came forward, and they were like, right, you need to clear for the divine feminine. It's not just you, it's collective, and we're going to show you what it is you're clearing. And I was like, oh my God, okay. And basically I just went right deep in. I had all everybody around me. And Jessica, what was coming up was absolutely, there are no words for it. I was being shown just like thousands of years back, okay, the darkness of this, and the divine masculine was there, okay, but it was the darkness that's taken place over the divine feminine. And I was shown this, and they were really showing it to me in intricate detail, like through the witch trials, you know, all of it, but not just that, all the different religions, how it was to try and prevent the divine feminine from actually being in her power, because that power is so important. But she can't, even if she's in that power, she cannot utilize it unless the divine masculine is standing there holding her, and he's had to have done his work. The stuff that what they were showing it to me, the darkness was like black, thick sludge. Yeah, like goo.
Yeah.
It was like slime. Okay, and it was revolting, and it was like that slime was pouring out of me. It was just pouring
One
out
of my
of me.
friends had a similar thing with the healing, and she said it was like
really
black.
coming out. And that
black goo.
That is the stuff that has been controlling our entire planet.
Fudge, mate. This is what
decades.
And that's also, a lot of people call that the AI.
That's it. Yeah. This is it. And the thing is that with the AI, it's always been there. It's not new.
It's ancient AI.
Yeah. And we have the ability to work with it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. We have the ability to work with it and shift it.
Yes.
But we've got to do that work. So that was really powerful. And then through that process of doing that healing work and really shifting and clearing, and do you know how mad it was? Like when that experience happened, the next day, 5 of my clients, not students, 5 of my clients, women, messaged me randomly out the blue, and they were like, I don't know what was happening last night, Cass, but we've had a major shift, like all of a sudden, blah, blah, blah. And it was all like, just like connecting. And I was like, this is how powerful this stuff is. This is how powerful our healing work is. Because when we do this work, it's collective. You know, it's collective. It's not just our individual.
Totally. It's interesting. I met my partner when also I was 31. And
wow.
Also so much tension, like trauma, argued, the same thing. And at one point I remember just being like, hang on a minute, this isn't just us, in the room. Like, this is a theme collectively that we are all doing, and we are now healing for the collective. Like, this is, yeah.
It's huge. And you saw it. You saw it. I mean, we separated for a while. Okay.
Okay.
And then like a lot took place in that period of time. Okay. And we are, we ended up having to come back together. Okay. Like almost like being forced back together. And then we had to spend time together to try and move forward amicably after being separated and after having all the stuff under the bridge and all of that. And through that period of time, I was so devoted to just my healing work and doing and just surrendering and surrendering. That's the word, surrendering. Okay. And doing that work that what it actually did was he started to elevate. He started to shift. I never put any pressure on him. Whereas before there used to be pressure. I used to say, you need to be doing this. Da, 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 da. It doesn't work like that.
Like,
It does not work like. So he's ended up growing. I've ended up growing. And through that growth, we've ended up coming back together in harmony. And look, there's still work that needs to be done. It doesn't ever go away. It's still there. But we're now back. And all in all, we've been together for 13 years. Okay. So it's 13. Yeah. Yeah. We've been together for 13 years. And in that period of time, the growth, it's unbelievable. It's absolutely unbelievable how two people can grow, even after everything we've been through, the separation and all of that. We've grown, and now through the process of surrendering, we're like, okay, here we are in this space, and actually, it's quite enjoyable. There's no more power struggle anymore, and you know the beauty. This is it. The power struggle is so crap, isn't it? And it's so tiring. It's so tiring. And actually, what I've realized is that I've been able to step out of my masculine, because that's going to really influence a relationship negatively. Okay, it's going to impact it. If the woman is in her masculine all the time, the man cannot actually even get a chance to be in his masculine if that's the case. So I just thought, you know what, I'm going fully into my feminine here. He can take it or leave it. I'm just focusing on myself, my babies, my animals, my spiritual journey, and I'm really going to just be in my divine feminine. And through that process, he's just stepped so beautifully into his divine masculine now, and he actually now holds me so I can grow even more, which we never had before. We never had that because there was this like weird ego power struggle thing.
I know exactly what you mean. It's so interesting. I feel like it's such a similar journey. And
Exactly. Yeah, but that is it, isn't it? We're all doing it.
That's true. I saw some other person online who said he separated from his like soul partner, and then they didn't know that we could get back together. They got back together as well. So that's really interesting. And again, like saying we're all doing it. But I know these power play games very well.
Very, very well.
Yeah.
Very, very well.
Exhausting.
And it's quite sad. There's a sadness about it as well, Jess, because, like the level of control that is over us, I don't think many people even realize just how strong it is. Okay.
Yeah, like in one of my podcasts, Chris was saying, some people don't, are the thoughts even your own thoughts,
Exactly. And I've got a beautiful friend, a really beautiful friend. And when my partner and I were in that space again where we were going through a bit of a rocky phase, she actually said to me, she said, Cass, she said, I want nothing more in this world than for you guys just to be together and to be happy, because I look at you and I know you belong and you've always been that way. She said, but I'm starting to actually think that it's not even you two. She said, I feel like the power of you both being together is so scary that they try and stop they're trying to control it.
100%. This is how it happens, and it's like the entities as well, and try to stop the divine union and That's why you have to be on it with your own journey and your own
The
healing.
whole time.
Otherwise, they will hijack your mind, your thoughts, everything.
Yeah, yeah. Do you know what, Jess? I've with a lot of my students now, when I teach my workshops, one of the first things that we do, because I do work mainly with women. It's not because I don't get me wrong, I do work with men, and when I do, it's a beautiful, powerful journey. But I mainly work with women just because I've been there, I've lived that, I know the trauma. Okay, I've got the t-shirts. So for me to do that work, it's the right work for me to be doing. Okay. And what I say now is whoever you bring into your life, whether it's a lover, a friend, whoever it is, ask yourself one question. Are they a conduit for the dark? Because at this stage of the game, that is what we're dealing with. We're not, I'm going to swear now, we're not fucking around anymore. And the dark are so heavily involved that if somebody is able to be a conduit, they will be it.
Dude, wow.
That is it.
I was not expecting you to say that at all, but like, damn, it's so on point. And
It
even
is.
for the other guy I was dating, I feel like he was a conduit for the dog.
Absolutely. Most of the men I've been with have been influenced by entities. Most of them. I would say nearly all of them. I've seen it because they all used to get a look and they all used to do the same thing. They
Yeah,
would all go to a trigger
yeah,
that no one else would ever know, and why they were doing the same trigger over and over again.
yeah.
And the trigger was so off point. It's just, yeah. So this is what it is. That's what we're dealing with, Jess. That and if you are of the light, you are they're going to focus on you. They're going to focus on you because the thing is, when you are of the light, as you know, the minute your light starts affecting other people, their light then affects other people, their light. So you build up this powerful, this powerful energetic ball of light. Okay. They don't want that. They want to stop it.
Yeah, and it exposes their darkness and their shadows.
Exactly. So what happens is any way they can get in, whether it's through drink, drugs, mental health, whatever it is, they're going to get in. They're going to get in.
And that's the
And
thing.
that's it.
And if you're not conscious and just drinking and not realizing what's going on, then it's easily manipulatable. Like,
Yeah. And most of the time, these men do not, or women do not actually realize that they are conduits of the dark.
totally. They don't know.
You know,
100%.
they don't know because they don't know any other way.
So true. It's so fascinating because when I met my partner, basically, he stopped drinking. I was already not drinking. I stopped drinking when I was like 26. This is when
Yeah.
my weight went.
You and I are similar. I've had a few little kind of drinks over the years, but I don't. I'm
Yeah.
not. Mm-mm.
But I think that is such a big one. Drugs, weed. He stopped smoking weed, all of it.
Yeah.
It's like, dude,
Weed. Do you know what? This is the real sad thing about that because,
yeah,
and I could talk a lot about it because, I had my time where I've tried to smoke grass. It's never agreed with me. Okay. It never, ever agreed with me. It's such a strong medicine. Okay. And the problem is because it's such a strong medicine, the way that people use it, oh my God, and not only that, the fact that it shouldn't even be burnt, it should be ingested as an oil because the chemical when it burns, it just messes with the kind of the what are they called? The cannabis, it messes not the cannabinoids, the receptors. It does it in a negative way.
I think
Okay,
that's people.
which is really fascinating. It's really fascinating. It's such a powerful medicine. Cannabis is a beautiful, powerful medicine, but it's not being used properly.
Yeah,
And people are so open to being conduits through that practice alone.
yeah,
But I mean, alcohol is one of the worst.
yeah, totally. Yeah,
You
that's why it's
can't,
lethal.
yeah, absolutely, and legal, and it is. I mean, it's. I mean,
Yeah,
people have made their biggest mistakes. I look back at my life, and I look back at times when I used to drink, like in my early 20s. I made some horrendous choices, and I did some embarrassing things. And I look back, and I was like, "But Cass, that wasn't even me." And you know what the worst thing is? Um, People used to judge me on those
yeah,
behaviors.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
And that was it wasn't me. It just wasn't me. And when people go, oh, I did it when I was really drunk, it is an excuse. It is an excuse because you were actually possessed. That's it.
Love it. So, how do you tell the difference? Because I feel like this is such a tricky line to find between, being with someone who is, can easily be infiltrated by the dark, as opposed to someone who is just like their shadows are playing out, yet they are coming into the awareness. You know what I mean? Like,
It's a hard one. That's a
it's
hard
hard,
one.
right?
It's a hard one. It's a really hard one. But I'll tell you what it is. I think you can tell the difference. All right, if
Yeah.
someone's being kind of, if they're a conduit,
Mm.
because their behavior will try and stop you living your truth.
Oof.
Okay. And that's it. That's it. Whereas I think the toxic behaviors from someone who could be working through their shadows. Look, either way there's darkness at play. There's no
Yeah.
two ways about it.
Yeah.
But there is a big difference
Yeah. Yeah.
when someone is trying to prevent you from living your truth. And I'm going to elaborate on that a little bit, Jess, because you could be, well,
Yeah.
what do you mean? Like, if they are debilitating you, okay, to the point where you can't be yourself, you've got really high anxiety. Anxiety is usually a dead giveaway. If someone's giving you anxiety, normally they're carrying a lot more than just themselves, okay? Because our bodies respond to that energy. So if somebody gives you anxiety, it's normally because there's more stuff going on with it. Definitely, your body they can feel it. Okay, you can feel that darkness. But if that person is affecting you to the point where you are not able to do what you need to do, say for instance, you can't do your job that day because they've made you feel so crap, you actually can't do your work. You need to just have a day off. Okay, there's more to that than meets the eye. There's more to that than meets the eye, because you shouldn't ever not be able to do what you want to do and live your truth. If someone's trying to stop that, I would say there's more going on.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about, like, I feel like, what about, say, someone who isn't quite tuned to that, or maybe it's also just like a case of the fight where you might not be getting so affected in that way. Do you know what I mean? Because I feel like sometimes
Mm.
you can still be in it but you're not necessarily getting that anxious. Do you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
yeah,
Definitely, definitely. I mean, look, I think you have to have discernment as well. You've got to be able to feel, don't you think? Like, you've got to start. And most of the time, the people that are affected by the darkness and the entities they don't even know it's happening.
yeah,
They think it's them. They think it's them.
yeah.
I mean, I've actually had to physically say to people, I cannot have anything more to do with you, because you are literally a portal to dark entities which are trying to really like hurt me. Okay. I can't have anything more to do with you. And they're like, what are you talking about?
I know what you're saying. Like, this is not concept that a lot of people are aware of, and also somehow sometimes it's like a bit of a, what's the word, bad thing to say to people, or like it's an insult, but it's not really.
Yeah. It's not really an insult. What it means is sort yourself out so that you're no longer a conduit.
But it is a
If
funny
you
thing.
don't want that, then kind of rein it in. Try and you see, the thing is, where substances are involved and not used
Yeah,
correctly,
yeah,
there's always going to be that. It's just, if you're making room for stuff. You're making room for stuff, and that's it. I know an amazing man, Jess. He's a Liverpudlian, and he's written a wonderful book called Not All Healers Are Holy. Yeah, and we did a little bit of work together because he's an angelic Reiki practitioner and teacher. Okay, and we did some work together because he used to be a big boy in Liverpool, like a big boy, living the life. He owned a bar, loads of cocaine, all that kind of stuff, like really going for it. And one day, he'd had a lot of trauma as well. He'd lost two people that he loved dearly. One of them was in front of him. His cousin was stabbed in front of him, so he had a hard life. And one day he was sitting in his house getting on it, and they started to reveal to him exactly what he was dealing with. Every time he put a note to his nose, exactly what he was inviting in. And he was seeing it clearly. He had like angels around him all going, there you go, we're now showing you. And he said, you know what, even though that was all going on around me, I still carried on.
Yeah, I
Still
find
carried on doing my life.
what did he tell you why?
It's that addictive kind of energy, isn't it? He was like, I couldn't just leave the coke there. I still needed to keep going. Even though every time he did more kind of like black goblins and demons and things were coming towards him, he was still going for it.
Mm.
And that's the power of that.
Mm. So this book is that what the book is about? It's really interesting because
it's his whole journey. Yeah.
Because I find
Yeah.
the healing thing is so interesting because I feel like on the path it is totally a path of purity. Obviously people are at different stages, but it's like how much can you actually do when you're not when it's like you're not clearing that to the light, to enter the light like more and more,
Yeah. Well, you probably know this, Jess, but like, that there are days when you realize, oh my God, I could, I've still got quite a lot of work to do, but
Yeah.
when you do the work, what I find is that you become a lot more resilient. It doesn't
Oh
mean that you're
yeah.
healed.
Oh,
You
100.
just you become a lot more resilient because, you know, you're able to really sit back and look at the entire picture
Yeah.
and see it for what it really is. And when you don't do the work, you don't have that advantage.
Yes.
You operate from the ego.
Yeah. And it's like a narrower view.
Absolutely. And through that narrow view, you can't actually really kind of evolve.
Yeah. Yeah, and make the best decisions for yourself.
Totally. So it's a massive journey, but it goes on and on and on and on and on. But what I will say is, I'm so happy, and you probably feel the same way. I'm so happy that I'm where I'm at on my journey because I'm able to have a clear perspective on myself and what needs the work and what doesn't need the work, and I can have an honest conversation with myself about it.
Yes. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, you can't hide from yourself anymore. It's like,
I literally just posted this yesterday because I feel like, you know, I don't know what it is about lying. It's so sometimes it happens in the family and people just do it. But like, if you are taking this journey serious, you just can't lie to yourself. You have to be honest with where you are. There's no growth or evolution if you're lying about like even the smallest little things. Yeah.
the truth is the only way.
Yes.
Yeah, my son and I were having this conversation the other day. I was like, he did something, and I mean, he's hilarious. My son is really connected, okay, and right from when he was a baby, he's all you can see. He's just got it, all right, and but he's so sensitive. Like really sensitive, so I have to really nurture that and protect it because he's quite open. So he did something the other day. I can't remember. I was in the kitchen and I asked him a question and he point blank lied. And I went, Archie, I know you're lying. And he was like, oh, well, I'm not. And I said, no, I know you are. So, and I said, can I just ask why? Why? What was it? It wasn't even anything big. It was really, I can't even remember. That's how insignificant it was. And he said, well, because if I told you the truth, then I thought you'd get really angry with me. And I went, you're hilarious. You've got it the wrong way around. If you tell me the truth, at least we can deal with it. But if you don't, I've got no ground to stand on. I can't help you. We can't move together as a team.
Yeah.
We can't do anything. You are on your own as a liar. Yeah. Whereas if you tell me the truth, then we can work through it, because the truth is all we've got. We've got nothing else but the truth.
Yeah, so true. And also, it's just this weird idea of like, oh, I don't want to hurt other people's feelings, but that's such a twisted concept. Like, what do you mean you don't want to hurt my feeling? Like,
Absolutely. Like, exactly. And you know what? My son has even said that to me before. I'm like, why? He's like, Mommy, I really didn't want to hurt you. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't understand that by not being honest, that's actually what hurts me, because I feel like when you do that, then we separate. And that, and the person that you are when you're in that space of not the truth, it's a lonely, crappy place to be.
and it's like fear because you're afraid. A fear of being truthful, being in your authenticity as well, right?
Yeah. And that's it. And when we are not living our truth, we've got no power.
Yes. It's disempowering.
That's it. Yeah, there's no power. Because as you know, Jess, the biggest thing over our whole planet now, the number one thing that has the power is fear, in whatever capacity that may be. And when you lie, it's a response of fear.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So it can't have any positive connotation.
Yeah.
Because the root cause is not positive at all.
Yeah. I love it's interesting what you shared about the relationship and the dynamics. I feel like so many people can probably relate to that. But yeah, I would love to just take it back, because you said that girl spoke to you when you were 9, she explained so much about what's going to happen. Like, I'm like, how did she explain it? Was it very detailed, or was it just like the
very detailed?
really?
We spoke for hours, like hours and hours and hours. It was so detailed, Jess. Like, she was basically, what she actually said to me was that we were going to get things in our palms. Okay. She said, we're going to get like chips in our palms that would have everything. And if we didn't have those, we wouldn't be able to buy food. And she said, and we would end up starving and we would be kicked out. And she said, but the ones that had them, we're going to be told that they would be given everything. They would be having a home, a life. They'd be given all the things, and they would be safe and protected. And the ones that didn't, she said, they would lose their homes. They would go hungry. There would be a real separation. And she said, but really, you will go to the light. That's what she was telling me at that age. Isn't that mad? And she said that there was a lot going on. And she said, and what she did also say, which was really interesting, was that there was an invisible war between the angels and the demons. And she said that war's been going on for a long time. And she also said to me that all the wars that we think are going on in the world aren't even real. She said, because all of them are between light and dark, she said, and good and evil. She said it's got nothing to do with what we think it is. Isn't that interesting? And she said we all believe that wars are happening for a certain reason. And she said, but none of it is the truth. It's all happening for something a lot darker that we can't see.
I mean, look at this big war, this genocide that's happening at the moment. Like, so on.
And there is so much, there are so many lies going on about that as well. It's just unbelievable. I mean, it's crazy. And those lies are creating such a divide. Isn't it nuts?
Yeah, it is.
The lies are creating complete divide.
Yeah.
And people are really getting angry and upset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So,
And the chip, I mean, the part about the chip that is in the Bible, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah.
Is that the one in the Bible about the chip? But yeah, I know that in Revelations it comes up that there's going to be stuff like that. But the way she described it was like, so it's so detailed.
And so how did
And
you,
obviously,
sorry,
no, and obviously I was all the time before that was when, so that was when I was 11. When I was 9, when I was shown the numbers, that was when I was shown about the different groups
so when,
and about the cabal
before
and things
that,
like. Yeah, that was before, and about the child trafficking and all of
like,
that. So I was,
before you had the conversation with her, you were showed this, where were you,
yeah,
how
that
were you with that?
that was when I saw the piano with the numbers on it,
Ah,
666.
yeah, and you came home and all the entities in the room.
Yeah. But that child then was told me about the different, the satanic groups, yeah,
What?
around the world.
And when there's entities in the room, how did you deal with that? Because some,
I wet the bed.
did you? Wow.
Mm, I
And then,
wet the bed. Yeah.
and after that, like how, you know what I mean? And you were just seeing them.
Well, that put a lot of fear into me. It did. That put a lot of fear into me. But the thing that used to stop me getting scared of things like that was always having my animals around me. I felt very protected by my animals, and I've always been very close to horses, and I always felt that when the animals and the horses were around me, I was protected from those entities. Yeah, that's what kept me safe. 100%. Yeah. So, but I mean, isn't it mad? It was that way round. So I was shown that, and I was told that lots of children get taken, and all. So it was quite scary for me as a child. It was quite scary.
Yeah. I mean, in general, the information is, it can be seen as
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, in the last few years, more stuff has come out, and some of it is just too horrific to even think about. It really is. But the truth is the truth, and there's nothing we can do about it. And we can try and, people can try and pretend that it doesn't exist. They can try and carry on with their lives. They can do whatever they want to do. But what's taking place is taking place.
Same thing.
And yeah, and there is definitely a massive divide between light and dark on our planet. um
And so after
that's
that
it.
moment, like, how did you feel, and how did that connect to like what you felt you were here to do?
I wasn't really sure if that was connected to my purpose or not, but I always felt that I needed to help people.
Mm,
It's never ever been something that I've doubted, ever. And through my akashic work, my soul purpose, because your soul purpose and your life purpose are different. The soul purpose is where you operate from your soul. So all of your incarnations, you have this purpose. Your life purpose, it changes throughout all your incarnations, and your soul purpose has to express itself creatively through the various life purposes. Okay, that's how you keep yourself aligned. And so my soul purpose is divine compassion. It's all about, it's like service at the most basic level, nurturing, growing food, teaching, caring for people, all of that sort of stuff. So I've always had that within me. I've always known it's there. And I think as well, Jess, like the connection that I have with people, I know, I can feel it, and they can feel it. It's like, and I'm sure you probably have that as well. It's like, it's probably how we connected. It's like, it's there. You don't need the conversation. It's there. It's powerful. And that's how we inspire each other. It's about that soul connection.
love that.
Mm.
So then the moment when you turned 11 and the other person who stayed over, and also, so like, how did that affect you as well, and what was the difference between those two moments, you know?
I remember feeling scared, thinking, what are we going to do? Like, what are we going to do? But you know what I did know? I knew that no matter what happened, I would never have the chip. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes, yeah.
And in this lifetime, I've done everything I can to reveal, to help people awaken to their souls so that they don't have the chip.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's it.
how are you seeing the chip, the analogy of the chip? Because 2020, and then just check.
I know. It's a very sensitive topic, isn't it? It's a sensitive one, babes. It's a sensitive one.
That's so true.
Yeah, it's a sensitive one. It's a sensitive one.
Oh,
Could we try and read between the lines here?
yeah. No, but it's so
Yeah,
interesting because I feel like it's very unexpected, you know? Like sometimes you think, oh, and then it's like, oh, okay.
yeah,
But,
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
yeah. So it's very interesting. So you were saying, so was there anything else that she brought as well to the conversation that,
No, because I even, after all of that, I even ended up rescuing a kitten from a satanic group in South Africa as a child. So some random person that lived down the road from us. And this was the story. This is what life was like in South Africa. You always had animals everywhere, and we always had stray animals. And some random person that lived down the road, a young teenage boy. He must have been about, I don't know, 4 years, 3 or 4 years older than me. He came up to me with this little black kitten, and he just said to me, "Look, there's a satanic group that want to harm this kitten. It needs a home." And I was like, "Okay." Took it home, and my mom was like, "Another animal?" I'm like, "Yeah." But I often think about that. And I think, like, when you look at my life and you look about the things that I knew about, like, what are the odds on that? I mean, how many people do you know that's been given a kitten from like a satanic group? I mean, you don't even hear about that sort of stuff unless it's like,
it's very
a horror film.
yeah.
And that was just like the norm. I was like, yeah, of course. And he was the most beautiful cat. He was so beautiful. But yeah, so there was always these little like connections,
So
which is
also
very weird.
the other thing I think about those incidents is sometimes it's very hard to come back into the world after knowing this information, especially
Totally.
because a lot of people don't know, they're not aware of it, they don't understand.
Mm.
It can be quite difficult. How did you bring that with you, like just and walk around with that knowledge, you know?
Do you know, Jess, I don't actually know any other way. I don't know any other way because it's been part of who I am for my whole life, and I think wherever I've gone, I've always tried to educate people without coming across as being forceful and preachy. I've always tried to educate people in the sense where it's been to find your own light and to find your own truth, because all of this is irrelevant if you haven't done the work, if you're not prepared to do the work yourself. And that's the honest truth. The darkness of the world is the equivalent of our own shadows, and until you learn to navigate through your own shadows, you're never ever going to be able to navigate through the darkness of the world, because there is nothing scarier than your own darkness. And so there's only one way, and that only way is in. And if you don't do the inner work, the outer world is going to continue to be like that. So this is why we all have to do the work. We've got to go inside and do the work. I worked with a man, a beautiful man, a Christian man. We did a few days work together quite a while ago, and he said, "So in your spiritual way," he went, "tell me, how do we save the world?" And I said, "Do you really want me to tell you?" He said, "Yeah, I do." I said, "Through meditation." And he went, "What?" And I said, "It's the only way." Because the only way that we are ever going to be able to really process and deal with and shift is through the present moment. because there's no fear in the present moment. There's absolutely no fear, and it can't be influenced. It's like boom, 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 now, 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 now. And that's when we start to realize just how like fucked up time is. We're so pulled out of our truth with time and everything to try but actually if you just here, and you try to spend more time there's no fear in the present moment. And once you start to learn to spend more time in a space where fear cannot impact it, that's when you start to heal. That's when you start to heal, and that's when you start to really step into your power. And through that power, you can flip and shift everything. You can shift everything, absolutely everything. And he was just like, and I explained it to him almost like that. And he was like, how do I do that? I said, through your breath.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes, like you said, it's fearful. Sometimes we might go down the tangent of like, oh my God, you know what I mean? So I like the way that you have shared about how you try to share the knowledge. Was there ever any point where you were like, oh my God, this is happening? Or not really?
Yeah, of course, because I'm having my human experience here,
Yeah.
and there's times when I can be extremely intense. I can be pretty intense and pretty dramatic at the best of times. But I wouldn't be having my human experience, and I wouldn't be embracing it fully if I didn't kind of embody those moments,
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Love it.
there's not a lot that really phases me anymore, Jess. Like, I think through my healing work, nothing really shocks me anymore. And through the clients that I've worked with, I mean,
Yeah.
healers don't get half the amount of credit that they should. I've worked with some pretty heavy cases where I've, it's a lot. It's a lot, but yeah, my human self can be a bit dramatic sometimes.
But that is the place to be, like you said, is when you can integrate the fear, then that's when you're really powerful, and then things don't phase you. Like, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And you know what? When you're more present, you're more grounded. You've got a much stronger foundation to
So
be able to
true.
navigate through the shitstorm.
That's
That's it.
so then
Yeah.
what you shared briefly about the in your 20s going out and then your psychedelic phase. So uh are you still like, what was that for you? What was that journey? Did you kind of like completely step away from that?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a long time ago now. Yeah, it's a long time ago. Yeah, and I learned and I grew
From
so
that, yeah.
much. I grew so much.
But why did
So
you step out? What was the
it just became enough. It just became enough, and my higher self was like enough. And I was starting to have a lot of visits by spirit to go. It's this is you're not aligned. You're not aligned. So, I listened to my truth and was like, right, this has got to stop. I mean, it's when it stopped being fun.
that's a good way to
Mm,
determine when is enough. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So here we are. Welcome back. Yeah, the call got shortened last time, so we're just here to conclude this chapter in Casca's story. And yeah, let's just take a few breaths and then begin. Okay, how are you feeling today?
I'm good. I'm good, Jess. As I mentioned before we started today, the last 2 weeks for me have just been really, really crazy. Like time and energy, and just it's all been a lot. Lots of stuff coming up. Um, so yeah, I'm glad that we're able to be sitting here again together and just kind of continuing and concluding from where we
Yeah.
left off, because time just ran away with us, didn't it? It really did. There was just so much that came up. So yeah, and how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I've just yeah, we're supposed to come back to London. Our trip has been postponed again. So I'm just kind of thinking, yeah, my housemate said, we're on gifted time.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, yeah, just enjoy this.
Enjoy
Yeah.
every minute of it. And as I said before, it's absolutely pouring here. So, but I suppose it's pouring there as well.
Yeah.
So
But it's
yeah,
hot. It's like 30 degrees.
yeah, beautiful,
But
beautiful.
yeah. So the last thing we were touching on before was just you were sharing about your psychedelic journey. That yeah, that's what you said. You said it wasn't in alignment for you. It got to a point where it was just like, okay, enough.
Yeah.
And I kind of, and you said it was like started to feel bad. I kind of want to touch on that because I also started this other podcast speaking to people who've been deep in that world of plant medicines and and then have stepped away. And I feel like what I see that could be quite common is people will get the message like it's enough, but it will take a while for them to step away. Did you have that
Mm.
experience or
Well,
yeah?
no, if I just go back, because there's a little bit, you know, it's coming back to me now what we were saying, and I want to go back to 2000, like 2007, 8, and 9, like those are the years when we met. So I in that period of time, I was partying quite heavily. I just live for music and for dancing. That's kind of where I used to just feel my happiest. Okay. At the
Mm,
time, looking back, seeing that actually it was an incredibly dark time for me. But there was a lot. There was a lot that came up for me in that period of time. Just dabbling with recreational kind of medicine, if that's the right word, and whatever. Um, it there was a lot that came up, and at that time I started to realize that this can't continue. This can't continue, because it does get to a point where your body, mind, and soul checks out. It's like, and the more you continue down that path, the more toxic it actually becomes. And as you know, like with the universe and with our guides and with our higher self, if you are not listening to that clear guidance and you keep pushing down that path, it's like going against shark skin, in the opposite way. And for those of you that don't know about shark skin, if you go with the grain, it feels like Saturn. Okay. But the minute you go against the grain, it's like really, really sharp sandpaper, like you can actually nick your finger. And I use that analogy quite a lot, in my teachings and in my work, because, the universe is very clear when it shows us that we're going against the grain. It's very, very clear, but it's how much do we listen to that? And with that type of lifestyle, when you are starting to go against the grain, it starts to become very toxic. And what I started to notice is the friendships and the people who I absolutely adored and but placed on pedestals, they actually started to turn, those relationships started to turn as well, and they started to become quite icky. um, until I actually had to think, right, well, what do I need to do? And I'm very strong in myself, where when I make a decision, that's it. It might take me a while to get to that point, but when I make it, I go for it, and I'm really like, I move forward. So I started to step away from that. And I think, Jason, you'll probably understand this. Like, the thing that I missed was the music. Like, that was the thing that kept drawing me back. It was the music. I come from a musical family. It's my favorite thing. So that was the thing. But I had to make the decision, like, with that, what comes everything else. It wasn't serving me anymore. It wasn't serving my highest good. So I stepped away, and I kind of stopped, like, partying, drinking, everything, kind of knocked it all on the head and just tried to focus on myself. But then at that period of time, lots of shadows started to present themselves. It all started coming up, and I was able to start seeing my behaviors a lot more clearly. And then, we spoke about those kind of toxic relationships that didn't stop. that didn't stop. And so like I went the complete other way. I got into a relationship with someone who was teetotal, like straight edge vegan, like he was into music, but it was like death metal, like, which is the complete opposite to my vibe, you know, like, but I totally went the opposite way. And again, that didn't serve my, you know, it was interesting because this person, he was a childhood friend from when I lived in Somerset West at that period of time. So his soul obviously we had a contract with each other. We had to kind of show each other some kind of, you know, something that we needed to learn and grow from. So that relationship didn't last long, but the period of time was very intense. So I then kind of moved on. I moved away from London, moved back to the coast, but then alcohol stepped in, and that got a little bit toxic because I've never really been a big drinker, but when I have drunk, it's never really served me. It for me, alcohol is such a poison, Jess. It really, really is. It doesn't serve me in any way whatsoever. I become the worst version of myself, and all my willpower goes out the window. So then in those spaces, it's very easy to be tempted to go back into all those behaviors that kind of I'd left, because the willpower goes completely out the window. So moving back to Portsmouth, you know, I'd felt to myself, I felt so lost. I'd got my degree. And I was like, what next? Like, you know, didn't have any family that I could just go and like kind of like center myself around. London wasn't serving me. I was really, really lost. But and then I just went through a few more toxic kind of connections, a few more toxic behaviors and repeating patterns started to come up. And it was intense until, you know, as I mentioned before, I moved to Essex and things started to kind of, you know, come right. And I really, really started to put the work in. You know, this is when I started to take my career to the next level. I started to really kind of train in Reiki and energy healing and color therapy and, you know, aromatherapy. I started to just build up my database. Okay. And then moving forward, when I separated from my partner for a while, and I hadn't drunk for a really, really long time or done anything like that. I really haven't properly drunk since my son was born. There's probably been a few occasions which, you know, and that was 10 years ago. And then the plant medicine started to talk. The plants started to talk, and I was like, wow, you know. And at this period of time, I was like, right, I was single, and I thought, great, this is going to be a really good time for me to explore this. And it was coming from all areas, you know, like it was just, you know, how when the plant medicine starts to talk, it comes in. There's loads of synchronicities. It's, you know, lots of people start talking about it. Lots of clients were mentioning it, and I was like, right, this is where I need to go. And I actually got into another relationship with somebody, which was a very, very, very intense relationship. And it was someone that I actually worked with for a while. And so we were like, right, let's do some ceremony together. And it was powerful. It was really, really powerful. The amount of healing that took place in those ceremonies was just, it was massive. I started to really see my blessings. I started to really see my role as the divine feminine, which is a really, really big role, and what I've chosen to do in this life. As you know, I work with the dragon realms, which I know we're going to talk about in a bit, but the dragons started to come forward in a really massive way during this period of time. And I started to really gain clarity. And so I'd prepared for it. I didn't know what was coming. As you know, you surrender. I didn't know what was coming, but my intention was that I surrendered to the clearing of the divine feminine. And I hadn't told any of my kind of feminine friends or my girlfriends that this was going to be happening. And when I kind of went in, what started to happen was I started to see like hundreds of years of the divine feminine, okay, and what had been taking place. And it was huge. It was really, really, really huge. And I started clearing, and I can't even begin to tell you what was coming out. It was like black, thick tar. And it was, I just had this like old fashioned like camera rolling, showing me like just hundreds of years of the divine feminine, going through all the witch trials, the witch burnings, like going through all different countries, you know, moving through all different religions. And that really, really, really showed me a lot about who I am and about my work and about what I'm actually here to do. And interestingly enough, I the next day, I had like 5 messages from people that I work with, women, and they had tapped into that energy. No one even knew I was doing it. I'd kept it very much to myself and to the person I was doing this with, and no one had even known. And they had all messaged me. They had felt the clearings, and they were telling me their experiences as exactly the same time as I was clearing, they were clearing. And it was massive, and they could actually see my guides, and I was coming into their kind of their vision. It was immense. But then shortly after that, I conceived my daughter. And when I was pregnant with her, I was given the instructions as well that she was part of that clearing of the divine feminine, and she was coming in as a divine feminine to do this work. And I mean, she's extremely powerful. She's extremely powerful, and she's here to do this work. And so that was through that whole process of me doing the healing work and healing. So she came in. And do you know what's really mad? I never thought I was going to have another child. I never did. But I had, a month before that, I woke up and she was already in my bed. I woke up holding this tiny baby girl. And I was like, so she was showing me that she was coming. And she came in shortly after that clearing.
Wait, say that again. A month later after.
Sorry,
No.
say that again. The connection's gone a bit wonky.
You said a month later you were holding her. What is
A
that in real
month
life?
before, no, so a month before she even was conceived, I woke up holding her in the bed. And I was like, wow. And it was one of the most real dreams I've ever had. So she had already, and it was really weird because, like in that moment of that dream, that surreal dream, her name was actually Beau, which is Beau. And I was like, which means beautiful. And I didn't, so when she was conceived, and when I had actually, it was all, there was so many things leading up to it. As soon as I did the pregnancy test, I knew instantly that I was having a girl. I knew exactly the energy she was going to be bringing, and I felt it the whole way through. And she gave me signs the whole way through. And actually, when I was teaching a workshop all to women, and I was heavily pregnant. I was working with a divine feminine oracle, and we pulled a card from her, and it was the cosmic egg, the divine feminine. And she had basically given this message. It was just, yeah, it was very powerful. So through that process, I shifted. The plant medicine brought me to that. But what was really interesting was that I started to realize that with plant medicine, and this is going back to what you were saying, Jess, like with plant medicine, there comes a point where you have to take what you've got from the medicine, and then you have to kind of step back and have perspective, because, you know, I could have easily, I did a few ceremonies in a close proximity to one another. Okay. And then I stepped away. I work with a lot of people who microdose. A lot of my clients are working with the plants, and they're working beautifully. But you have to have so much respect for this medicine. Okay. You have got to have so much respect, because I have bared witness to people that have not respected the medicine, and they use it recreationally, and they're mixing it with alcohol. And the minute that starts to happen, you start to open up portals. You start to bring in entities that are desperate to come in. And those are extremely dangerous. Those entities are dangerous enough to kill you. And I'm speaking from experience, not from my own behaviors, but from witnessing people that are very close to me. I have seen them dabbling with plant medicine and not using it with respect. It is the most powerful, powerful, powerful medicine. And it has to be used properly, because as we know, we know that there is a massive amount of darkness on this planet, and they will use any opportunity they can to enter. So this is why those
Yeah.
plant medicines need to be respected. So again, going back to what I was saying about that going against the grain. Okay, when you start to go against the grain with plant medicine, it's like you then taking poison. It becomes poison. So
Right.
for me now, I, obviously, I'm still, my baby's still, she's 2.5. My what I take in is incredibly natural now. I haven't done any ceremony or anything like that because I haven't felt the need to. I knew that for that period of time, that's what I needed, and that was it. And then I had to
Yes.
step away. I'm not saying that I'm never going to go and do another ceremony again, because if I feel that it needs to come up and that I'm being the medicine is speaking to me, then I will take that. And do you know the most interesting thing? I recently had a beautiful, beautiful friend, an old friend, and she was telling me that she would never have even dreamed about taking plant medicine. And she was told by a healer that, that the mushrooms wanted to start connecting to her, and she should just wait for signs. And the signs came everywhere. They'd built a house and mushrooms started to grow through the walls. The mushrooms were everywhere. The plants were talking to her. And since she started to actually use it as a medicine, the healing that's taken place in her life has been unbelievable. Unbelievable. She's literally shifted and she has really connected. Her spiritual connection is deepened. Her connection with everything is got, and her existence has kind of, it's just flourished. But you do need to know when to stop, and you do need to know, because
Yes.
Jess,
Yes.
so many
Exactly.
people some people get addicted to that. They get addicted to that, and that's the problem. It's about, and
Yes.
then when it's being used as escape,
Yeah.
again, that's the issue. That's when it becomes a poison. So people
Yeah.
can go, oh, I don't take drugs, I don't drink, but every single weekend they're going and doing ceremony in like a flat
Yes.
in London or whatever. It's
Yes.
not, that's
Yes.
not how it needs to be used.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
and there's a fine little line there, Jess. It's a fine
Hmm.
little line, babe, where you can easily just step over that line and be stuck in that place where it's becoming poison,
So what do you mean by
And
going against the grain? You said
you
if you
know
go
what?
against the grain.
Yeah, so that, when as I said before, when I was living in London and I knew that my time had come up, but I was still trying to push it because it felt so good and I was
Okay.
loving it, and everything started to go wonky. Well, it's exactly the same as that. That's going against the grain. That shark skin analogy where it's beautiful and smooth, you want it to carry on being smooth. The minute it's not smooth anymore, you start to nick your finger. And that's
Yeah.
what it is. Plant medicine is
Yes.
exactly the same thing. You can't just continue it.
Yeah.
And you can't. It's not meant for that, because the amount of clearing that you
Yes.
do is so freaking powerful. You can't keep doing that. It's not.
Yeah. Oh my
You
God.
can't keep doing that, because you still need to take accountability for you know for the work, for
Mm.
your own work, and how you start to make different choices, because as we know, like, it's all about consequence, isn't it? It's all, our life is a consequence of the choices that we make. Are they congruent with who we are, or are they not?
Mm.
And if they're not,
Mm.
that's when you start going against the grain. And plant medicine works exactly
Yes.
the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because I feel like it does get like that as well. Like at one point, like you said, it's just super smooth, and then it stops. It stops being fun as well. You were saying like with the psychedelics, and then, but I find it so interesting, and even what you touched on before is like you said back when in your 20s when you were drinking alcohol, you started to realize the friendships as well, the people in your life also started to shift. But I also wonder if it was a different awareness that was brought there, or did they shift because you were shifting as well? But I just think
Yeah.
that that's a big part of why it's hard to step away, because you have to move away from
Mm.
people, you know.
It's massive. It's massive. And really, like, those, I've seen it a few times, because, you know, you move around with different groups, especially with me, because I haven't always lived in the same place. And I've seen it a
Yeah.
few times. Initially, it's this beautiful, everybody loves each other, everyone gets on really, really well, everyone's happy, and then you start spending time together, and then, those parties that go on for like 2-3 days, like, then everyone starts getting a bit aggy, everyone starts getting a bit glitchy, and it all starts getting a little bit, I know someone who lives in Southampton, and he's got a beautiful word for that behavior. He calls it noidy. and it's like everyone starts getting a bit noisy. They get, and I know that that's human nature, but for me, that was also clear signs, because I've always been quite spiritual. I would look at those and be like, yeah, this doesn't feel good anymore. This doesn't feel right. But as you said, you still want to hold on to those connections. You still want to hold on
Yeah.
to them because you love those people. And I've
Yeah.
always been somebody that sees the light. Do you know what I mean? I've always seen the light in people. I'm the one where you've got the whole of the Olympics running around with red flags. And I'm like, I can see the one white flag and I'll focus on the white flag. Do you know what I mean? I've always been like that. I have obviously got better now as I've got older, but as a young one,
Yes.
no. That was like, just, yeah, red flags going like this. And I'm like looking in the distance at this tiny little white flag going, no, you see, it's all right.
Mm. So yeah,
So,
do you
yeah.
think that the people were changing after like being around them for so long, or do you think you just were like, it just became, you were becoming more aware of it, and that you were moving away from that?
I would say a bit of both, babe. I would say a bit of both. And I think, obviously your outer world is a direct reflection of your inner world, isn't it? And so, if the inner world is
Yeah,
is going through shifts, the outer world's going to be doing the same. And
that's
at
so
the end of the
true.
day, let's be really honest, it's reasons and seasons, and people come and go. They really do. And yeah, and there's been a lot of people in my life. There's been a lot of people. I know a lot of people, like, I really do. But, there's been a few which are the ones, and that's all right. And the others have just come and gone, come and gone. And of the ones, I'm so grateful for the ones that I don't really need anything else. And that probably sounds, uh, I don't know, quite narrow, but it's not. It's just I appreciate the energy that people bring into my life. But when it comes to the ones, I know where I'm at. I know that the dynamic is set where it is. And you start to realize that you'd rather be around people where you are safe. Do you know what I'm
Yes,
saying?
so
Mm.
true. Yeah, yeah. Just what you shared there. I love what you shared about the plant medicines. Is that it's very cool that you just followed the calling, and then it was very profound for you. And then afterwards, it's just like, okay, now moving on. And just yeah, you said sometimes you can't be doing work like that so much because it's so powerful, which is
Mm.
very interesting. Because for me, this is one thing I realized. It was so intense. Like
Yeah.
it was just so intense every single time. And then afterwards, I was like, you know what? Life isn't this intense. Let me just live in this,
Yeah.
normal world. Like I
Yeah.
don't need to keep
Exactly.
putting myself in that deep ocean.
Mm. Exactly. And it is a deep ocean. And you don't know where you're going. It's like a deep ocean. And whew, like
Yeah.
you could do one ceremony every few years, and that would be enough. I mean, look,
Yeah.
okay, actually that's a ridiculous statement. I take that back because everybody's different. But
Yes. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
people get
It could
hooked
be.
on it. Yeah, it's escape. It's escape. And you've got to ask, you've got to be really honest with
Yeah.
yourself when you start to do plant medicine. You've got to be really honest with yourself because you can't lie to the plants. Okay, you can't lie
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
plants. They see it all. So if you're lying to yourself doing plant medicine, you're going to get screwed.
Yeah. And that's again, like you said, the respect.
Mm,
But also, I just remember now you touched on the entity thing because I feel like what I have heard and other people have spoken about is that now, like you said, the dark beings they will use every single opportunity. And I think what I've heard is that before it was a lot more pure than it is now with a lot of
totally,
these plant medicines. But now the
totally.
level of entities and portals and things, it's on a different level. I don't know if do you know any more about that and like
Well,
how, because obviously it depends on the protection of the space, but even still, there's like, you know what I mean?
You've got to, even the medicine itself needs to be cleared. Okay.
Yeah.
So, funnily enough, somebody that I know went and did an ayahuasca ceremony. Okay. And it was supposed to be really beautiful. People had come over from South America. It was this whole big, amazing thing, this beautiful band, like your South American band, really, really stunning. Okay. That's the kind of, vibe. And afterwards, she didn't feel good, and obviously, the medicine can take a really long time. It can take up to a year to still work through you. She wasn't feeling good, and I said to her, just see how you go. And like 2 weeks later, she really wasn't in a good way, so she said, Cass, can you just check me? So I went in, and she had a massive entity attached to her. She had a massive entity attached all the way up her neck, all the way into her brain. And, there was just all this like dark tar. And I had to clear it off her. And literally, the minute I cleared it off her, she shifted. And she said to me, I actually felt that coming in. I actually felt that coming in because
Wow.
she'd had a really bad headache. And the second day, she chose not to do any more medicine. So, it's very possible that this can happen. And lots of people don't realize that. A lot of
Yeah.
people will go into ceremony and go, oh, I'm feeling really shit because obviously I've done a massive clearing and this is the healing process. But actually, a lot of people could potentially have entities attached to them. And if, how many people can actually call a healer and say, can you check on me?
Yeah,
There's not
so
that
true.
many. Exactly. And even, without discrediting anybody, it's taken me a really long time to get to the place where I'm at as a healer, where
Yeah.
I can actually really see an entity. Not many healers can. And I'm not saying that, in a disrespectful way, but,
No, I know
and
exactly
also
what you
to be
mean.
dealing with it, when I'm working with it now, like I'm working with some heavy entities when I'm clearing people, and they don't want to go. They don't
Yeah.
want to go.
Yeah, yeah, they're different. It's like a different range.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, it's fascinating. This is another thing that has been on topic for a while, actually. I think just the whole thing about entities, because it's true. Like, it's so true. I had this incident here the other day where yeah, a friend felt funny, and it turned out that we had a friend there who was a healer, da, da, da. But I was just in that moment thinking, like, how crazy is that this is happening? People don't know that there's an energetic thing going
yeah,
on here, and how to help themselves in that place, but people are here who can clear entities,
yeah,
and you know what I mean?
yeah.
It's so wild.
Do you know one of you know what's going to happen here? We're going to run out of time again. You know that, don't you? I but I really want to touch on that because it's really fascinating, because I'll tell you something that not a lot of people realize, and it's actually really, really, really crap. Okay. And this is why, like, we are waking up and we need to know about this. But these
Yes.
entities, they start targeting children and babies from a really, really young age.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when children are having night terrors and all of that, look, there's a lot more going on than what we are
Yeah.
told by our doctors. All right. So,
Yeah.
and this is why those babies, when a baby's having a night terror, and night terrors can last right up until a child's like 7, 8, 9, 10. If you look at their eyes, it's like looking at somebody who's completely drunk. They're gone. And there's no
Mm.
reasoning with the night terror. And what people don't realize is that you need to keep your children cleared all the time. Your houses need to be cleared. You need to
All
be
the
on the
time.
ball.
All
And
the
you don't,
time. Yes.
this is it, because Jess, naturally, we are energy beings. Okay. We are inside of our energy. We're not outside of it. Okay. So it is our birthright to work with energy. We should be clearing all the time. We should be. It's the same as our spiritual, our physical
Yes.
hygiene. So
Yes.
really, teachers in schools should be doing energy clearings over the house. The schools should be protected. In those classrooms, those children should be getting healings. It's like, we are living in such a fucked up space because
So
it's
true.
energy first. It's energy first, because on the physical and the mental, those are the manifestations of what's gone on in the spiritual and the energetic.
Yes.
So we are so backwards. We are so backwards.
Yeah.
And, I say to people all the time, like, when you are about to have a baby, when you are about to, bring a life into this world, you've got to remember that although the ancestors are standing right around and that baby's already recruited their team, they've got their galactic soul family, they've got everybody, it doesn't mean to say that they cannot get possessed. Okay.
Yes.
And when you keeping that baby protected and you're keeping their energy, really kind of nurtured, you're doing the best job. As a mother, two things you should learn is spiritual first aid and physical first aid. Okay.
Yes.
Those are the
Preach.
two. Exactly. They're no different to each other. There's none of those. If anything, the spiritual first aid is the most important. Okay. But both are equally, massive.
So
And,
how?
and so, yeah.
No, I'm just intrigued. How the process for you? How did you get to see? You said you can see it then now. Like, is it just a unnatural unfolding?
I'll explain it to you. So, yes, it's become over the years, but so my kind of my book up here or in my soul. Okay. So how I view, obviously you build up like a database throughout your spiritual work. It's the same as mediumship. You have to learn, your guides have to show you how they want something. So like, if I'm working and somebody shows me like a steak or like red meat comes into my my vision, like I
Yes.
know that my guides were trying to say like iron and stuff like
Gotcha.
that.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Gotcha.
um,
Okay, fine.
yeah, so you start to build up that, and for anybody that's on a spiritual journey, that practice is incredibly important. Remember what your guides show. If when my guides show me lemons, I know that that person's probably deficient in vitamin C. So I've got, this is how I've built that up in my head. Okay.
Mm.
So if they show me coffee, I know that that person shouldn't be having caffeine. These are the things. But everybody's different. Everybody's different. So when I see entities now, how they show me, it's like black tar but crystallized.
I was just
All
thinking
right,
about
so
it
it's
before you said it.
crystalline. Yeah. So they will show me like for instance, they'll show me that it's like almost like black glass
Yeah.
in the head, and then they'll show me which meridians are affected, the nerves that are affected, and then they'll show
Wow.
me what is happening mentally, and then I just work with my dragons to clear.
Oh,
So yeah.
oh, onto the dragons.
And I can see it like that. I see it like that. The
Love that.
minute somebody says, "Can you check me?" As soon as I go in, I see it instantly. And if I don't
Wow.
take what I see in that instance, if I don't take it, then I can get a little bit warped.
What do you mean warped? Oh, the
Then
vision.
I can start. Yeah, then it starts to get a bit blurry. I have to take it in that moment. It's got to be in the present moment, right there and then. And then I can go in and say, right, now that I've seen it, now show me more. But if I
Gotcha.
miss
Gotcha.
that
Gotcha.
first thing,
Like,
I've got to go out and wait for another day.
wow. So you have to like act on it, open the door quick.
Yeah, yeah,
Um.
yeah. That's how I work.
So I love that, and also I love what you were saying about the we are energetic beings. We have to know how to do this. I feel like this is like the next big frontier for us. But yeah, I would
Yeah,
love to, and also the black tar thing. I've heard this by a whole bunch of different people with purging as well, and
yeah,
I would love to hear more about the dragons. You said in 2020 they came, and because this is
yeah.
also
So, oh, Jess, what a beautiful thing. And, I just feel so blessed to be working with this energy, and a lot of people are like, oh my God, but the dragons are from Draco, and Draco's obviously, the
yes,
reptilian and whatever. But
like
you,
bad.
there are some dragons that are not good, of course, but the dragons are not all from Draco, and they're spread across all the dimensions. They're incredibly beautiful and powerful, and they're connected to the kind of the higher vibrational etheric realm of support and guidance. So it was
Yeah,
actually in
important.
2000. Yeah, so it was actually in 2018, and we decided to go traveling around Europe with my little boy because he was about to start school in the September. So the summer we got into our vintage camper van and we were like, right, we're going to go traveling, and it was such an amazing holiday. We literally drove from Essex into Portsmouth. We stayed in Paris, Dijon. It was stunning. Went into the Alps. We stayed in the Alps. Then we went into Milan. Okay, so as we got into Italy, so as we were coming out of the Alps, I had no connection to the dragon realm whatsoever at this point. I really didn't. Obviously, I was working with the angelic realm, and I'd been teaching, people about angels and doing my own healing work. I'd done my angelic Reiki, so I was connecting, and I kept seeing like out the corner of my eye, like what looked like dragons, and I was like in the trees and the clouds and all of it. There were loads of synchronicities taking place, and um, I then we got to Milan and it was so hot. And I had stopped at this shop to try and keep my son occupied. And I bought him these two little dragons. Like that's all I got. Like just quickly grabbed them. They were on the side of the, where you pay. So I bought him these two little dragons. And then we got to Milan and we were sitting in the camper van and I just chilled out. I just tidied the whole camper van. It felt all good and it was hot and I just lay on the bed. My son just said to me really randomly, Mummy, what's the name of your dragon? And I literally didn't even think about the answer, Jess. I did not think about it. Okay. I channeled it. I went serious. And I
Wow.
was like,
Oh,
what the fuck?
what a name.
Yeah, and it connects even more because I didn't know that much about my soul at the time, and I'll tell you a little bit about that in a minute. So I was like, right, that was a channel, like I channeled. So I was part of this like angel group on Facebook, and I put a post up, and I said, "Do any of you beautiful people know anything about dragons?" And this woman messaged me back instantly and she said, I do. And I said, I've just had this really mad experience. I didn't tell her exactly what happened. And she said, let me pull you a dragon oracle card. And she pulled the green and gold dragons from Sirius. And I was like, that's really powerful. And then for the rest of that trip, the dragons kept kind of appearing. And I was like, okay, cool. Then I was invited in 2019 I went to this women's convention in London and I was invited to go and teach in Iceland. And it was a beautiful opportunity. And when I got the veil is really, really thin in Iceland. Okay. It's like majorly thin. And the people there are really connected to the elementals. And I said I kept feeling the dragon energy, and so we invited the dragons into one of my workshops, and they all just came in. They just flooded, and I was surrounded in rose pink dragons, like they were just around me all over, like the whole. They were just circling my energy, and I was literally filled up with this like unconditional love energy, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. And I knew that the dragons were like everyone in the workshop started to work with the dragon energy. That totally just went out, it wasn't planned. Anyway, I came back to England. My friend Elma, who's Icelandic, my Viking sister, she came over to my house and we delivered a little workshop in my house of people connecting to dragons. And I, again, just was like flooded. So I then was like, right, I need to find out if there's anyone in the world that teaches Dragon Reiki. I couldn't find anybody. Um, but I found a woman that sent distant attunements of the Dragon Reiki symbols, but she doesn't tell you how to work with the energy or anything like that. So I went, right, I'm going to do it. And so I got these attunements sent to me via chi ball. And then I had like 2 hours before I was seeing a client. So I brought these in and I felt this energy coming in and I thought, oh, this feels really good. It feels really, really, really good. And I went to go, my client arrived and I went to go and place my hands onto my client. As I placed my hand onto my client, I just turned into a dragon. And I was like, oh my God, like, wow. And I got a little bit kind of like shocked at it because when I work with the angelic energy, the angelic energy comes around me. It doesn't necessarily work through me. Whereas this, it does work through you a little bit, but not like this. I literally turned into this big black dragon. And so I also work with Mary Magdalene as well, and she always stands to my left. So I kind of like looked, and she was like, "Just go with it." And I was laughing. I was like, "Are you for real?" I could even feel my tail on the floor. And I was like, oh my God. So I went with it and I had a really profound healing. And normally at the end of my healing sessions, I've got this massive, like, shamanic feather. Okay. And I use that for clearing. And I didn't even use it. I just used my wing, like, to clear. And then that night, no, the next day, because that was on a Thursday, the next day was a Friday. And in the early hours of the morning, I woke up and that same dragon, like, was like, right, get on my back. And I went and got on its back, and we went all down the Thames. We went from East London, like all through East London, like through Canary Wharf, down like in onto the Thames, all along the Thames, like everywhere. And it was basically at that time I didn't realize, showing me the land work that I was, where I've been placed, the land work that I would be
Wow.
clearing, because I didn't really realize that the dragons at that time did this work. Anyway, so
Yes.
that was like
But
that was
was
like
that like
towards
a
the end.
bit? Sorry, was that when you were sleeping or?
Yeah. Well, I was half awake, half asleep. I woke up
Gotcha.
in the
Yeah,
early hours of the morning. Yeah, it was really the same kind of experience when that baby came, when
yeah. Yes.
Starla came.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, then I was like, wow, this is like powerful, but I still couldn't find anybody to actually teach about Dragon Reiki. So that was at the end of 2019. We lost a really, really, really good friend as well in that period of time. He just died instantly of a heart attack. It was horrendous, the most beautiful, beautiful soul. So I went back to Iceland. I was feeling the dragon energy again. And then 2020 New Year's Eve came. And I don't celebrate. And I just woke up on New Year's Day and my whole bedroom was full of dragons.
Wow.
It was just full, little ones, big ones, all sitting, standing. Like, I was like, oh my God. And I was told then that they would be guiding me to create an intricate version of Dragon Reiki. So I'm not the founder, but I had to. And so I did. Little did we know we were going into lockdown.
Yes.
And so I created the modality, and next week I'm launching my book. So I've written a book on Dragon Reiki and the whole process of what I went through with the dragons and how they've guided
Wow.
me. And the dragons have opened up so much for me because they've connected me to the Akashic Records as well, which is a major place that I work in. And the year of the dragon, which is this year, and I've
Yeah.
just been invited to be on loads of different podcasts. My book's coming out. I've got another book which will be coming out in December as well. And I've just started like training people from all over the world into Dragon Reiki. And it's the most beautiful and amazing modality because it's very shamanic. So you work
Yes.
very much with the fourth dimensional elemental dragons, which are earth, air, fire, water, and akasha. You work with your healing, like your healing guide, as well as if there's any others that come through. And so it's just the integration of working with the dragon energy and how we actually can use it to heal the ley lines, the
Mm.
water, everything, the air. And these amazing dragons have all come forward and allowed me to channel them and share their information. And through this whole period, I've been connected to the unicorn energy, the ancestors, working with healing with Gaia. It has been absolutely huge, Jess. It's been huge, and this is such a big year, for the year of the dragon, for these energies coming in, because all of a sudden people are really connecting to the dragons and not
Yeah.
understanding like why, because the dragons have, people were just getting their head around angels, and then all of a
Yes.
sudden the dragons like came in.
Yeah.
And yeah, so my work now is very, very, very much based around the Akashic Records and the dragons, and they are really, it's a beautiful shamanic energy. It's so powerful, so powerful.
Wow. I love that. I didn't know
Mm.
that the dragons brought you to the Akashic Records. I thought maybe you had that before. It's very interesting.
Yeah,
But
because do you know, I was always able to see past lives. Okay, that was a gift that I always had. And then when I kind of got attuned with the Golden Akashic Dragon, at that same time, somebody offered me an Akashic record reading, and then through that process, it just took me even further. And the Golden Akashic Dragons, they are connected obviously to the Akashic records, and their job is to reawaken who we are at soul level
yes.
and reconnect us to our soul gifts. And so working with that energy has become such a big part of my life,
Mm.
and now the journey of actually, moving from the Dragon Reiki itself into the dragon and Akashic work. It's just, and I'm growing and learning every single day,
What
you
an
know.
amazing story. I love it. I heard about the dragons before. I don't know when it was, maybe 2020, 2019 or something. And but I just heard that, the energy is to become the dragon basically. So, but I didn't know about many people who were working with it. You know what I mean? I just knew that it
Yeah.
was gonna happen. But yeah, now's the time, I guess.
It was, yeah, that was a really mad experience for me. And, and it's funny what you just said now, because a few people have actually said that, oh, Cass, you know, we've heard you've got to become the dragon. And I was like, I didn't even know any of that. I
Yeah,
had no idea.
yeah,
I was just going with it. Do you know what I mean? It was like, I was just going with it. And now I'm just guided by my dragons. I'm just guided. Do you know what? Like, they have helped me with such big healing. I don't know if you know, but obviously, like, I channel light language, and I never knew that was ever going to be something that I did. And it was through the dragons connecting with me through doing some of my own heart chakra work. They asked me to start bringing out my dragon voice. I was like, what? And they were like, just chant, just chant. And so through that process, I started they started to reconnect me to my soul, to my dragon voice. And then my own form of chanting actually started to come out. So now, like, when I can, if somebody rings me up and they're like, Cass, I'm not feeling too great, I can actually over the phone tap in, connect, and then just activate them. I
wow,
never realized
love
that
that.
it's shifted my healing, like, work in such a big way. Yeah, it's
Mm,
powerful.
yeah, very inspiring. Love it. And also just like going with your own natural intuitive abilities and just, creating this new form, I guess. Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, Jess, I love what I do. I absolutely love what I do. And I'm in the process now, we were talking about going against the grain and all of that. I'm in the process now of having really big shifts in my work and having to make choices that are more congruent with where I'm at, because I'm starting to realize that I need to be doing more kind of interviews and podcasts to help people
Yeah.
to kind of wake up to this energy. And I need to be
Yes.
teaching more, because the teaching is
Yes.
my main soul gift. So I'm having to slowly make a decision now where I have to start phasing out my one-to-one sessions, because what I'm starting to find is that although they've served me in such a beautiful, amazing way, my actual energy and my soul doesn't have
Mm,
the capacity anymore to be working with people so intensely on a one-to-one level, as well as obviously writing my book, doing my online courses, sharing. I can't do it all. And obviously being a mother, that's the most important thing. So I'm having to, bless you, I'm having to I'm having to make some really big changes, because it's like I'm coming to the end of a phase in my life
yeah.
now where I have to put the energy into what I need to be doing, and I need to be
Yeah.
connecting a little bit wider
Yeah.
than what I do.
It's interesting. I've definitely seen it before where people offer sessions and then it just changes. Now it's like a different way of sharing. Yeah,
Yeah,
it happens.
yeah. And
Um,
also, the thing is, I ultimately, just people are responsible for their
for
own
them.
healing.
Yes.
We are not healers as such. So,
Yeah.
if I now am able to kind of activate people to a level where they can then take the responsibility to do their own self healing, then that's where we want to get. I mean, a friend of mine said
Yeah.
yesterday,
Yeah.
Cass, what would be a really good idea for you is if you said, right, I'll do one-to-one sessions like in a January, and people can book up in advance, and then, and then do
It's a
that,
really
and
good
then the
idea.
rest of the year do my teaching and obviously
Yeah.
workshops and stuff. people do, and then that gives people a year to do their work and then come back. So,
I love
I'm moving into this space now where my life purpose is shifting. Yeah,
changing.
I've been feeling very
That's
scattered lately.
yeah. That's a really cool way of doing it. I really like it. I feel like as well for me personally, I've definitely been doing. At one point, something shifted, and it was after I stepped away from the plant medicines as well, where the healing just started happening to me. I was going into deep like ceremonies with nothing there.
Yeah, with
It was
nothing.
just like
That's it.
yeah,
Wow,
exactly.
Jess. Mm,
And it happens when it happens. Luckily, it's not like random, obviously, because like when I'm out and I'm
yeah,
like, it happens when I'm at home, and then I realize I need to lie down, and then it's just like this whole
and then
and
it
and I
starts
love
coming up. I love that.
exact. And sometimes I don't even know what it is, which I also find really interesting. But the energy is just moving. And
Sometimes
it's
you
just like
don't need to know. The brain,
yeah,
the actual logical brain, actually doesn't need to know. And I say this to people that I've
I
taught.
totally agree.
When when you are now at that point, whether it's for your self healing or for somebody else, you are a channel of energy. You don't need your logical brain to work it out. If you do need to know, you'll know. If you don't, you don't. There's no point trying to work it out, because your soul it's eternal. It's so old. You could be holding on to stuff like from, well, wherever. I mean, time is not linear, but you don't need to know. And it could be stuff from a completely different dimension that how could you even work that out with a human brain?
Yeah, that's so true. It's
Mm.
infinite. So when 2020 happened and the dragons came, everything, did you reflect back to those moments where you said when you were 9 and I think 12 it was, or 11, where those people came into your life and told you all that information about the battle, and were you like, oh, this is it?
I was not initially, because initially I was just like trying to get my head around dragons, but
Okay.
what was really interesting is it all kind of came back, and this goes right back to the beginning of when I said to you, I had all these, I understood the earth, I understood what was going on to a certain degree, and then I was drawn to London, I was drawn to, well, not London, I was drawn to England, and I was drawn here, didn't know why, I just followed that path. And then the dragons, and then when Kyrios, because Kyrios is it was the dragon that first, apart from the dragons of Sirius, like he's the one that really connected. And Kyrios actually means Lord, in Greek, which is amazing. But he was the actual one that was showing me why I was here. And then I understood that, oh, right. So, like where I'm situated, I'm like a beacon here. I'm a beacon, and I've been placed here in order to kind of work with the ley lines, work with the land, work with the people, work with what I need to be working with. So it's mad. And that just reminded me, I wanted to tell you something. So after doing the Akashic work, I actually found out that my soul originates on Sirius.
Yeah, I
So,
knew you were gonna say this. Me too.
yeah, you as well.
Yeah.
How mad. And look at that little connection that we had when we
Yes.
first met. You see, isn't that beautiful, babes? Oh, I love
Oh,
it. I love it.
I
I love it. I
know.
love it. Beautiful. So that was when Sirius came to me, he was basically showing me, I have been your dragon from the time of creation, like from the time your soul was created, I have been with
Wow.
you. So,
Mm.
yeah, isn't that just amazing? Yeah,
That is
I love
amazing.
it. Yeah.
Wow, what a story. It's so mystical, so magical, but also very real, which I love. It's just like you're here, you're
Mm,
practically implementing, doing this work, and it was so evident from such a young age as well, which is amazing. I
yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. I would love to. So I normally ask everyone this final question, which is, what does freedom mean to you?
Freedom means when we actually have no more restrictions over ourselves. It's where we are able to liberate ourselves from our own restrictions, because through that process, then we become sovereign. We become free, because the restrictions that we feel we have on the external world really are the restrictions we have within, and we need to self-heal in order to break those restrictions. And that is it. It's like if everybody focused on their inner world and freeing themselves from their own restrictions, then there would be no restrictions on the outer world, because there would be no control, because we would understand fully our power. We would understand fully our truth and our worth. So it's about liberating ourselves in our own universe and our internal. That is what freedom really is.
Love that. And
Mm.
then I just thought now to also ask you, is there anything else you want to share about, like, seeding in this positive timeline for humanity?
You know, Jess, the thing that I would like to just say lastly is that nobody is here by coincidence. We are all here because we're meant to be here, and we all are part of this beautiful tapestry. We are part of the mandala. Okay, we are part of it. Every single person is part of it. It doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, what you look like. You are here, part of this mandala, and you have a role. And before you even can start to realize what your role is, just go within and do the internal work, because you will start to realize your magnificence. You will start to realize how powerful you are, just how perfect you are in every single way, and then you won't take life so seriously. You will start to really see that you're just having this experience. You're here having this human experience, and it's better kind of achieved light in a light-hearted way. It really is.
It's so true. I feel like that is we move out of that when you go through the healing of everything being
Yeah,
so intense and, like, attached, just to
yeah.
much lighter. Mm.
Mm. And I just want to
Yay.
say thank you to you, beautiful Jessica. I really love you, and it's been such an honor to sit here with you in this space. We've had a long old podcast, haven't we? Um, Yeah, and I hope that I get to see you in the flesh, so I can give you a little cuddle, when you eventually come back to the
Come
UK.
to Yeah, hopefully soon. Yeah, it'd be amazing to see you as well. And yeah, thanks so much
Yeah,
for your time and sharing it. I
thank
just
you.
love your
Thank
story.
you.
So
Thank you.
I'll put all your links as well at the bottom so people can find you and your work.
Okay. Oh, brilliant. Thank you so much. Thanks so much. And have a beautiful day.
You too.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode and to this podcast. We hope that you can gain many insights through the art of listening. If you haven't already, we would love it if you can follow us on YouTube, on Instagram, and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts if that feels right for you. We've also just launched our first online course, Awakening 101, a ninja's guide to navigating a spiritual awakening, which is led by me and is offered via donation. So if you feel called to that, then please dive in. It's available via our website. Thank you.